In this week's Parshat of Vaetchanan, we will read the Aseres HaDibros. Now, there are two ways in terms of reading and trop to read the Aseres HaDibros, because there is a division of the Aseres HaDibros into psukim and into dibros. That means you could have one dibra that's written with many psukim, or you could have one pasuk that has many different dibros. So the law and the rule is that when we read it publicly, we read it with what's called Tam HaElyon, and we divide it up according to the commandments, according to the dibros. Whereas on a private personal reading, we'll read it with Tam Tachton, and we'll read it according to the psukim. Now, this has a tremendous impact on the digduk, and especially with a word that ends with an either pasach or a komatz. For example, it says lo tirtzach. So that if you divide it into psukim, lo tirtzach is part of a longer pasuk, and therefore you read it as lo tirtzach. But if you read it publicly with the Tam HaElyon, then lo tirtzach is read as a separate entity, and therefore it ends in a komatz. The Vilna Gaon has a tremendous insight, and he says there are two ways of killing someone. You could kill someone with a pasach. He gives the example of someone who testifies falsely against someone, and that someone is now found liable for the death penalty. And you can kill someone with a komatz, without giving the testimony that could save a person's life and exonerate him. And this all touches on the difference between the word pasach. The word pasach means like the doctor says, open your mouth and say Or, for example, we find that a door that opens is called a pesach, or komatz, which is miloshen kmitza. Like, for example, when the Kohen in Menachos, he closes his hands tight, that's called kmitza. Well, for example, someone who's tight-fisted and doesn't give money is called a kamtzon, and that's called withdrawing. And if we think about the Shoah, we really can understand this insight of the Gaon, because at the time of the Shoah, there were the arch enemies of the Jewish people who killed us with a pasach. They vilified us, they maligned us. These were the Nazis. The nations of the world, on the other hand, were totally silent, without protesting. And they were guilty of killing with a komatz, by withholding words that would argue against our enemies. And it's so true in terms of our relationships with people. Sometimes we say things that we shouldn't have said, and it penetrates and could have such an impact on a person. That's killing with a pasach. But other times, when we don't guide our children the way we should, or leaders who fail to protest, that's a kind of ritzicha, a kind of killing with a komatz. When we read the Torah publicly, we don't suspect anyone in the Jewish public to be guilty of killing with a pasach, of actually destroying others and murdering others. So therefore we read it with Tam HaElyon, where you read it with a komatz, lo tirtzach. And we have to understand that today we're really facing this situation. We have those who are vilifying us. They're calling us genocide, baby killers, and so forth and so on. They are killing us with a pasach. And then there are nations of the world who just stand by idly and let the terrorists do whatever they have to do if the free world, and they're killing us with a komatz. Ratzon would be zoche to avoid, and Hashem should offer us protection against those who kill us with a pasach, and even those who kill us with a komatz. And it'll be zochim yirtz Hashem that we personally could be makayim the Aseres HaDibros and all of the Torah the way Hashem wants us to do it. Ken Yiratzon, wishing everyone a good Shabbos and a meaningful fast for Tisha B'Av.